I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Happy New Year! That's right, Happy New Year, everybody. I don't care that it's January 20th. Welcome to the Curb Your Enthusiasm After Show, Season 10, Episode 1. I'm Christian Bladt, joined by a fantastic panel.
Oh, I'm so kind, man.
25% of our panel not here this week, but our friend Rachel Goodman will be here next week.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, we have the wonderful, the talented, the dashing Flobo Boyce.
Thank you so much, Christian.
Flobito on the mic, and down on the end, James Maple.
Hello, everybody out there in TV land. Your boy James Maple here. What's
That's
up, guys?
right.
He's your boy, baby.
Yeah, and I'm very
Already.
excited to be able to talk about another season of Curb Your Enthusiasm.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you, though?
10,
11?
Season 8.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm about season 8 excited. Look, it's one of those shows you never really know if it's coming back. It's not one of those shows that does a big finale and then it's like, actually, let's come back. It's always open-ended. And I love that. I love the fact that it will come back.
Yeah.
How excited were you, Flobo, when you heard they were being in season 10?
You know, it's definitely one of those shows that everyone has fond memories of. It's like a nice warm hug. No one's ever like, that show's not for me. It's always like, Curb Your Enthusiasm.
You can describe the show that way, but I wouldn't describe Larry that way.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's totally different
He
from
is
that.
as huggable as a cactus. But
What do you think,
the show-
James?
Yeah, so this is my first season watching of Curb Your
Awesome.
Enthusiasm.
Welcome. Yeah, that's
So
what I
I
love.
have to say, like, coming into the show with like a fresh set of eyes, I am hooked. Now I
Right?
see all the hubbub. Why everyone's been talking about it for years and years. This show is dope and very, very funny.
And look, I always think it's great to have somebody on a panel for any show that this, whatever the season we're covering, it's the first one that they've seen.
Yeah.
So what are your impressions of Larry actually watching the show? And is that different what you had maybe before you sat down to watch
I
it?
definitely think that Larry is. I'm sure we can all agree with this. He's like our inner monologue.
Oh, yeah,
He is the pointing out of social faux pas. He is the pointing out of like just little weird idiosyncrasies that people do and say. So I am all here for Larry. I definitely understand now why people are like adore the show for as long as they have. It's been nothing but like a pleasure to watch. So I'm so happy to be on this panel and knowing the show for sure.
And, you know, when a show like this goes away for a while, they can always make changes. All of a sudden, you know, I mean, you wouldn't with Larry because it's basically, you know, somewhat loosely based on his real life. But sometimes, you know, a show goes away for a while and then all of a sudden it's like there's different characters that you have to all of a sudden accept.
Right.
I'm just glad that Larry's there, Jeff's there, and thank God Leon's still around. And, you know, I mean, because, you know, if we didn't have JB Smoove on our TVs every week, I honestly don't know what we would
Yeah,
do.
he's definitely up there as one of my favorites for sure.
Yeah, and he's always
Timeless.
fantastic.
I just looked it up. He's like in his mid-50s.
Yeah.
Like a dude.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, really?
Yeah,
Right.
it's nuts.
Yeah,
Wow.
exactly. So let's start off with the intro that I gave, which is Happy New Year. Very early in the episode, and a few times throughout, Larry makes the point that the statute of limitation is 3 days. And I always feel like, yeah, there's a certain point in the year where maybe you should stop saying it.
Yeah.
But I think the first time you see somebody, as long as it's January, you can say Happy New Year. What else you can say? You just say hi, I guess.
Hey.
But
Yeah.
what do you think, Flobo? What do you follow the 3-day statute of limitations?
Actually, no, it's kind of coincidental this is happening today. I usually use MLK Day as the barrier.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's a good
Up
idea.
until then.
See, and you would never wish somebody a happy Martin Luther King Day.
Right,
Yeah.
it's kind of
So
like
it becomes a
little
weird way
Yeah,
to.
it's like,
you know, so that's
enjoy
when
your
you
day.
stop using a holiday.
Right.
You know.
So tomorrow.
Also, like, you know, are you going to wish next month? Are we going to wish people Happy President's Day? So yeah, I think it's good until. I don't know, really, like until we get to Thanksgiving. That's when you start. That's when you start wishing people.
Wow.
No, because, hey, Happy 4th of July, everybody! You know,
Everybody.
yeah. Happy Arbor Day. So I don't know. I know we have some people in the chat, or if you're watching the archive version, let us know where you come down.
Sure.
How many days? What do you think, James?
I feel like mine is is in the same ballpark, like a good 2 weeks. I feel like
Yeah.
after the second week going into the third, it's just like, bruh, we get it. We are like,
It's not
we are
changing.
14, 15 days in. I know it's a new year.
Yeah,
Chill.
Tomorrow
chill,
is
bruh.
3 weeks. That's
See?
that's
That's
plenty
plenty
for
of
me.
time.
So
That's
I think
plenty of
Flobo,
time.
you're spot on. Yeah, MLK Day. That's like that's
Yeah.
it. That's the end. So obviously we get pretty caught up to speed with Larry. That honestly things aren't that different with him. As we, you know, and we'll break down some of our favorite moments from the episode. I wanted to kind of start off talking about Mocha Joe, which we went into Mocha Joe a few times. And I don't know about you guys. I feel like if I have a problem, whether it's coffee place or at a restaurant, if I have two problems, I'll probably mention the second one, but if I have a third one, I'm like, nah, I'm just gonna. I'm gonna say that's not the world that Larry David lives in.
No, not at all.
What did you think, James, about how they kept calling Mocha Joe over?
You know, I work in restaurants and I have for years, so like that scene in particular, I was like, it was daggers to my heart because I've been in that situation, but on Mocha Joe's side, where you're just like, no matter what you do, it's like, no. Not good enough. No, not good enough. But I will say it was interesting and funny to see the other side of the table where you see Larry sitting down and it's like, oh, now I know my guests be getting so upset all the time. I get it.
Right. I mean, Flobo, I think he has a good point. Assuming that the coffee really was cold,
right?
And it's not like they sat there for 20 minutes. It's just he drank it, and Jeff thought the same thing,
right?
Which helps because look, Larry might be a little particular. So I'm
Mocha Joe just hurt, man. He made fun of a scone. He was like 2 different consistencies of scone, and that was it.
Which I thought was funny that his complaint was that it was too soft.
Right.
You know why I don't like scones? Because they're hard. I'm not interested in a scone. If it's scone or muffin, I'm gonna go muffin every time.
Are you team muffin?
Oh, I'm definitely team muffin.
Yeah,
I love scones. I love them. They're my favorite pastry, but they have some gift to them.
Whoa, that's a bold statement.
no,
That's your
bro.
favorite pastry?
Favorite
Do you
coffee-based
realize
pastry.
that donut is a pastry as well?
Is it?
I mean, I consider it to
I
be.
rescind my previous comment.
Okay, I was gonna say, man, you jumped
Flobo.
the
I
gun
love
on
fried
that.
dough.
I was like, I don't know if I could do a whole season of this show with this guy if he's gonna say
Goodbye,
scones.
everybody.
Scone is the best pastry.
And we'll talk a little bit more about Mocha Joe because clearly it escalates throughout the course of the episode and what looks like the season. And again, I'm Team Larry. I don't know if you guys have dogs. I have no problem people have dogs. I like dogs. I've never owned a dog, so I can't say I love dogs. I like dogs. I've met some really nice dogs. I met some that are a pain in the ass.
Shook your hand and everything.
Here's the thing. I don't love the bring the dog to the office thing.
Yeah.
It's never been a favorite of mine.
I agree.
And because the people who have the dog, it's like, oh, he's little, he doesn't really do anything. It's like, yeah, but you didn't ask me if I wanted the dog in the office.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's the thing where you can have a controversial opinion and someone could understand, but if you're like, oh, bring your dog to work day, that's Flobo's not coming into work day. That's what I'm doing.
I think you have to do a
right
secret
now.
ball, let everyone in the office vote. And if one person says I don't want the dog, it's like, all right, I guess the dog's not coming in.
Sure.
But there's like offices where like there's people be like, oh, that's the office dog. I'm like, yeah, I know it wanders around and
Right.
it's like asking for treats when I'm trying to work. So I don't love that, but worse than that, I again am Team Larry. Maybe I am very curmudgeonly. That maybe I have some problems because I don't want a dog using my bowl.
Yeah.
And his assistant pointed out that she washes it with soap and water. There's not a dishwasher there, like a dishwashing machine, electric dishwasher. Although, anybody that's ever grabbed a mug with lipstick on it, I'm not saying where that might happen, knows that sometimes those don't work that well. But still, just the idea. And again, we see later he pulls the hair out of it. And I'm like, yeah, again, is it just me? Or, James, do you think Larry's in the right for saying, like, don't use my bowl to feed your dog? You
already know where I'm going. Absolutely. He's right. Are you kidding me? No, look, I agree with you. I'm a big dog lover myself. I love dogs.
It's not about the dog. It's about the people who bring them.
It's the principle of it, my friend. It's the principle. Like, it's my bowl. I'm going to be eating on this bowl. I don't know where your dog's tongue has been or whose butt it's been on. Nah, bro. No. I wholly agree. Larry was definitely in the right. I was shocked he didn't react more. To be very honest,
that was very un-Larry-like, but I think there were enough other things in the course of the episode
touche.
where they had to manage the expectations. What did you think, Flobo, about that?
I mean, look, things happen, accidents happen.
Sure.
The dog got the bowl. I would not use that again. That bowl is gonna be on fire somewhere in a dumpster. I will not even be anywhere near that bowl ever again.
That's a great point. I would imagine that Larry, there would have been a scene where even if that was the only office bowl, he would throw it away later in the episode, like after the dog was done eating.
Right.
And then the real conflict would have been about the fact that it's like, we don't have any bowls. And it's like, yeah.
Right, exactly.
Maybe he got rid of all of them. Maybe rid of 20 bowls. And he's like, I don't know which ones.
That's
so, I'm with him. But not Team Larry when it comes to the overly specific questions about the tattoo. And then going further, who cleans their glasses on someone else's shirt, let alone a woman? And look, that's never been okay to do. No. But Larry, especially in 2020, you're not reaching over to a woman who works for you. And he didn't say, do you mind if I clean my glasses?
Right.
How do you ask that politely?
Also,
there is no way to do that.
What's wrong with his shirt?
Right.
It's because she had a sash?
Yeah.
That I don't know. I can't. I just can't be on board for that. Flobo.
Yeah.
You're not going to defend Larry on this, are you?
You can't because there's like whatever call it, tissues, napkins, all that stuff. You're already on that weird argument you had about the dog bowl, and now you're kind of like, oh, by the way, well, I'm here.
Look, established later in the episode, he has one of those little cloth things
Yes.
that are to wipe his glasses.
Yeah.
Yes.
So somewhere in the office, those are there, and instead he's just like, let me just grab your shirt without asking. Right. James, you don't have a hot take here where you're on Larry's side, are you?
Oh gosh, no, I'm too smart for that.
It would have been interesting for the show.
It would have,
but I'm probably glad.
I'm trying to save face those. You know what I mean?
And so the topic of Mocha Joe comes up many times, and I don't know what the policy is on some of the language, but because it's this show and they swear on it, I do need to point out that Mocha Joe gets so mad that at one point he's the one who calls Larry an old bald fuck, right? That's Mocha Joe.
Yes, that is correct.
And
that is
the
correct.
best thing is that when he's talking to Leon about it, he's like, well, you might be two of those three things, but not all three.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I just think that's great. But then Richard Lewis, unprompted, but who's, by the way, fantastic. I love the fact that we get Richard Lewis on TV.
True.
It's a little scary to look at, but he's such a great comic from the last really 40 years at this point. So I love that he's a regular. And why do you think, James, that he volunteered that he was going to boycott Mocha Joe when clearly he wasn't going to?
You know, I think that he was just trying to step in and be a good friend at the time, but I think it was just sheer comedic relief, the fact that he, as Larry's going to the ATM, he looks over and he sees him pull up. I'm like, yo. And then him trying to like, well, I am boycotting it. And it was like just a simply play on words. He's like, I said I was going to come here with you.
Yeah, and it's like, he didn't say that.
Right.
He's like, I don't think you understand what a boycott is, my friend.
I'm back on Team Larry with this. Also, very nice touch. As Richard Lewis is pulling into the parking lot, he's singing a song about like gonna have my coffee and Danish or whatever his song was. And so it's almost like he's celebrating the fact that he's not honoring the boycott.
Yeah.
True.
What do you think about that boycott?
Totally a thing about false outrage. Your friend complains about someplace you like. You're kind of like, oh, yeah, I'll never shop there again. But then you realize these businesses never go out of business. You know what I mean? Someone's actually going in and buying it. It just so happens it's Richard Lewis. So.
Yeah, and you know the Mocha Joe doesn't really end there. You know, Larry gets banned permanently, but he tells Mocha Joe that he will make him pay, and we'll revisit that at the end of the episode. I feel like it's best to kind of go in order here because these things all feed into each other. Let's transition to the event at Jeff and Susie's house. And do you guys have a favorite? There's a lot that happened at that house.
Yeah, there was a lot.
Do you have a favorite Larry moment from just that sequence in the episode, Flobo?
True. I got to say the shade tossed through Phil Rosenthal's face. Because I grew up with Everybody Loves Raymond, and I felt like of all the sitcoms, they very prominently told you that Phil Rosenthal made this show. So the idea that his being played up as a guy who always promotes his show was like so on point. That's when real life.
Well, and of course, obviously, if Phil Rosenthal's on the show, everybody likes him. And I always think it's funny, like when somebody plays like an exaggerated version of themselves or a more annoying version. The best example of that, if you go back in HBO history, is David Duchovny on the Larry Sanders Show.
Larry Sanders, yep.
and he was this like weirdly obsessed like stalker of Larry's, always trying to proposition him. So I like that. What did you think, James?
From that whole sequence in the house, I'd definitely say my favorite part was the interaction or the nonverbal interaction between Larry and the server as he's trying to get the hors d'oeuvres. Because like again, in working restaurants, I've been in that place where you're like holding a tray, and I'm like, yo, why are you creeping over my shoulder right now?
Dead.
Yeah, like, I think that was so spot on and such an interesting and funny take on like a very common thing. The fact that she kind of was like, wait, are you looking at me or are you looking at my pigs in the blanket?
Well, the way that it was funny to me was that she didn't even think for a second that he might be looking at the tray that she had. And let's be honest, if you're the caterer, you have to let the person know if you have the responsibility of carrying the pigs in the blanket or the sliders, you're going to be the one that everybody's looking for all night. You know, I have cornered the person with the sliders.
And that's the hierarchy. Slide up top.
Everything else is way down. The spring rolls, you know, the quinoa. Whatever.
Anything that requires work, people don't want. Or
and by the way, if you're at a party with both pigs in a blanket and sliders, that's a party to stick around.
Pro tip.
Yeah, that's one to grow up. So I thought it was really funny that she's like, "What's he keep staring at me?" I was like, "Because you got the pigs on a blanket." And of course,
Costco, come on.
Larry, of course, corners her. in the kitchen.
Oh,
Of
Lord.
course he does. And of course,
Yeah.
in trying to get away, he grabs her breasts.
So on brand for Larry.
Exactly. That might be the most. There's so many moments to pick from this. That might be the most Larry moment in the episode.
And his line, I think it was something up to the effect of like, I just want to grab one. I was like, no, wrong choice of words. Don't say that or don't do that.
Yeah. And Larry, she said, "Don't grab her pigs in a blanket," and you reached for it anyway. So. And I like that at least so far, at least at that party, there wasn't repercussions from it. We find out more a little bit later. What did you think about Larry and Cheryl's ventriloquist act, Flobo?
Kind of inappropriate now that they're on their separate ways.
Wow.
And
I mean, that's hardly the least appropriate turn of events for Larry and Cheryl.
But America's sweetheart, who's not Tom Hanks, Ted Danson's there having to watch it all.
Yeah.
It's just so rough, you know?
Yeah, that is actually the title. He should be America's Sweetheart Who's Not Tom Hanks. Because it's like, obviously we have Tom Hanks. But then right after that, who doesn't love Sam Malone, you know?
Right.
What did you think about Larry and his ex-wife, being like, oh, we're going to do this gag that we used to do?
I thought it was a little weird, I gotta be honest, a little strange. Their interaction I didn't quite understand going into it, but then as I'm watching, I'm picking up on context clues around other people. I'm like, wait, this is not supposed to be happening, is it? Like this is not supposed to go down like this. So I thought I loved how they were like reading everyone in the audience. They were just like going in on all their friends. I gotta love the that comedy in there. So
yeah, TM says in the chat, Larry will forever be the victim of circumstance.
yeah,
Absolutely. I mean, some of those circumstances he creates, but he'll walk into a room and immediately find the person that'll get him into the most trouble without even looking for it.
For sure.
The party introduces this concept of the big goodbye as it relates to Phil Rosenthal, and I mean it's a great practice, I suppose. Yeah. We'll see a little bit later whether or not I agree with it, but the idea of you ignore somebody all night, but then when you leave, you give them, oh my God, I didn't even get to talk to you. And then you do the whole thing. But Phil Rosenthal, not having it.
No.
Yeah, not having it all.
Yeah, so in true Larry fashion, he ends up having to make plans to have lunch with him.
Begrudgingly.
Are you a big goodbye person or are you a ghost person? I feel like those are two big schools of thought.
I don't really get out of the house much, so I don't get much opportunity. And honestly, I probably get big goodbyed and ghosted more often than I get to do a big goodbye or do the ghosting. Yeah, I've definitely been big goodbyed by somebody, and like, oh my God, we didn't get to talk. And I'm like, yeah, next time.
Right.
I'm like, wait,
I get you next time.
This Wednesday.
but we're here now. Why can't we talk now? Okay, bye-bye. Good to see you. I mean, look, it's a great question. I don't know, James, have you ever done a big goodbye?
Oh, yes, and I've ghosted many times as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm not good with that. Like, if I'm ready to go, I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
You got things to do.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, thank you. Like, when it's that time in the night, and I'm like, okay, I feel like there's always an awkward moment of like, oh, should I get up first so I can decide that it's time to leave, or I'm like, no, I'm going. I'm going to the bathroom and just never come back.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, sorry.
Wow, you guys are terrible.
Yeah.
Me? I'm the one that he's ghosting and saying goodbye to. I've been at the party.
He was out sliders and big blankets, and you left and ghosted him. That's right.
I have been ghosted.
I have a rule of thumb with that. I do the small goodbye. I do the earnest one if there's less than 20 people. If it's a backyard party or a wedding, just go. Just totally go.
They won't realize it.
Yeah.
That's fair. All right. So let's move on to after the party. Larry just decides to take Cheryl home, and then of course right away, because as soon as they set up that Ted has a flight, and Larry's going to take Cheryl home, and you're like, I can't imagine why she would want to get back in on that, but then she explains it perfectly. She just said that being around Larry makes her feel morally superior, because Larry's such a terrible person. And it makes Cheryl feel better about herself.
That's love, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
so.
Look,
That's the kind of love I want.
I've been married for 10 years. That's what love is. That's definitely like the only thing that makes sense why my wife would have married me is because I make her feel like a better person just by being relatively awful.
Yeah.
So, no big shock there. The fact that that they went home together. Obviously, Larry doesn't want to tell anybody, but they made sure to see that Larry did leave behind that little cloth glasses wiper thing that I'm sure there's a thing to call that.
Right.
I think that's going to come back, don't you?
Obviously.
I think so.
Yeah. So we'll keep an eye
It
on
has
that.
a very Scarlet Letter handkerchief vibe.
Yeah,
It's pretty cool.
I can see that.
Who is this? Yeah.
And James, Leon's very quick to notice the late hour in which Larry comes home.
Yes.
And he explains that these are tapping hours. White people aren't up this late unless they're fucking. So, and Larry tries to play it off, but Leon clearly too smart for Larry, right?
Mm-hmm. Of course he is.
He knows.
Yeah,
And he's like, "Oh, you're not going to tell me?"
Yeah.
It's all right. So that's why it's so funny later when Larry asks for the talc. Because he's working out vigorously in the evening.
Yeah.
We'll just have to. Yeah, you want to talk about the least believable thing in the show? It's Larry David working out that hard. I mean, look at him.
First of all, there's no talcum powder anymore. It's all cornstarch. And second of
Oh,
Exactly.
yeah.
So he's coming through with the realness right now.
Yeah,
No.
you just poked a hole in Larry's world.
HBO
Look,
sitcom.
and I think that is a very funny sequence that
for sure.
plays out. With the talc and. I don't know exactly how long Larry and Cheryl were married. But let's say they were married for 10 years. Yeah. He had no idea she was allergic to talcum powder.
Right.
I think that's one of the more Larry things in the episode.
I think so.
And then, he's in the hospital and he asked the question of, "Oh, if your face had gotten like that when we were all married, I don't know if I would have stayed." Yeah. Again, Larry just building Larry on top of Larry on top of Larry. It's like a Tetris game of Larry just putting his like awful comments and stacking them all the way up to the sky. It just makes it harder to believe. But Susie also can't believe that,
Yeah.
because of how much she hates Larry.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
more like it probably makes her hate Cheryl more,
Yeah.
right? Do you think that's fair?
Absolutely.
How would you assess the way Susie reacted to finding out that Larry and Cheryl were back together, or not back together, but they just got together?
I mean, you said it before. She doesn't like Larry at all.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that he totally went after her top hat, which is pretty awesome, by the way.
Yeah, I think it was pretty dope.
And
Well, speaking of President's Day earlier,
Yeah, right.
It's a really messy situation. We all love Ted, so it's kind of this weird thing where it's like, you've done better, girl.
Yeah.
What is you doing?
and she, of course, Susie revels in the fact like, "Oh, Ted's coming over. You got to get out of here because
Yeah.
you're nothing." And, how much does she enjoy that moment? And, look, I think we all have moments like that. We probably don't verbalize the way that we're not Larry. We don't say what he says.
Mm-hmm.
We also can't be Susie. But there's probably those moments where like, oh, this like really awkward, painful moment for somebody in the room who's not me. Yeah. is
relish
kind
in
of,
it.
yeah, let's just baste in it for a little bit.
This feels good.
And-
the water's warm over here.
and enjoy it. Of course, we do have to talk about a few of the other threads that we've started. You got to pull on all these threads and try and tie it up in a bow. So, Larry, to get out of his lunch with Phil Rosenthal, I just think it's a genius plan.
Oh, it's so smart.
So just wear the Make America Great
it's so
hat.
smart.
Make America Great Again. The MAGA hat.
Yeah.
Right.
The red Trump hat.
True.
So just wear it.
In California.
Well, yeah, you're right. That's a great point.
Like,
It
let's
is
be clear about it.
in Hollywood.
Can we just say how weird it is to have have their own merchandise? That is so bizarre to me.
Yeah.
To begin with, but it's like a people repellent, Like
Yeah, well, that's
Yeah,
what
that's what
they
he
said.
calls
People-
it. I think it's
Look,
genius.
in the real world, I remember being at a restaurant in Toluca Lake, which is here in the valley, in in LA, and there was a guy who had the hat on, and I'm like, nope, nobody's talking to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody's cornered. This is granted, this is probably like 3 years ago now, so it was all new.
It's still
maybe.
kind of fresh,
Right.
the
Yeah,
election.
I think now maybe, but I was like, wow, okay, because you don't see it often.
Yeah.
You know,
I think-
not where we live.
I think you can tell that too when they were sitting down actually eating in the restaurant. And they panned around to the different people, and everyone's like,
that
I was like, that's pretty accurate. I feel like it would go down like that.
that was some great extra work.
Yeah,
All
it
those
really
extras
was. They
should
came
get
through.
should get a SAG waiver because
That's the first time
they
I've ever
earned
heard
it.
extra work was
Because here's the thing, we all notice bad extra work,
True.
Touche.
but
Yep.
good extra work you're not going to notice.
They did a
right.
great job with that.
I
Spot
thought they
on.
were all just like, can you believe it?
Get an AfterBuzz Emmy. No, but it's kind of funny and it's genius in its own right because I had that moment of, oh, that's kind of messed up. Wait a minute.
He's messed up.
I'm doing prejudicial stuff. That's messed up too. So it's kind of this weird thing we're into where how you feel about the politics can be, answered with merchandise and seeing how everyone reacts to that. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we'd be remiss too not to mention the fact the very end of that sequence where he's wearing the MAGA hat and he's driving his like his i8 BMW all crazy, and the motorcycle guy pulls up. He's like, oh, you have a hat on. Oh, it's okay, brother. It's okay.
The guy's so angry, and then he puts the hat on, so then Larry realizes like, oh, I can use it for good as well.
Yeah. Use my superpower for good.
And then he puts it on just because he doesn't want people to sit next to him at the sushi bar.
Yeah.
So he wears it 3 times. I hope that Larry keeps that hat in his car, and there's another moment this season where he wants to get out of a situation, and we just see him
Put it out there. TM says prices on the MAGA hilarious. So,
absolutely. So we also, what we didn't touch on from the party, I'm sorry, there's just so much to digest, this idea that Jeff Garland would be mistaken for Harvey Weinstein. Now, they needed him to have a little scruff for it, because if he didn't, then you wouldn't buy it. But as soon as that happened, I'm like, oh yeah, look at him.
Yeah.
Look at Jeff.
Point and laugh. Yeah.
And that really comes to a head towards the end of the episode. It's not the very end of the episode. So we have all of these things that are coming together. You have the server from the party who is calling Larry's office. Obviously, there's going to be some legal action taken, gets the assistant on the phone, and they can both enjoy it. And then, of course, Larry's sitting there in his office in a robe with Jeff Garland, who, of course, his assistant thinks is Harvey Weinstein. I said before that something was the quintessential, and Jeff in the booth, not Jeff Garland, has done a great job in just kind of showing you,
wow,
it's a little eerie. I mean, by the way, Harvey Weinstein wishes he had that much hair.
Yeah.
But apart from that,
I do too.
I do 3.
All right, so yeah, that's true. Sorry, boys, we'll close for home.
As he whips his hair back.
Yeah. Let me just shake this off here. Sorry. In any case, that I think is what this show's all about, and that's what you'll find, James, as you're in for this season, is these little things that are like, oh, that's kind of a problem, and you can see it always compounds and it comes together in a way where we have not seen the end of it yet.
Yeah.
But just at the end of the episode, he's in the robe. He's got Jeff, who looks like Harvey Weinstein, not Jeff Graham. Jeff Graham in the booth does not look like Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah, he has the best hair of all.
He's a very handsome fellow. It's true. I wish I had that hair.
He moisturizes, yeah.
Careful, guys. You're gonna get me in trouble.
So, we see all of that, and of course, that doesn't look good for Larry. But what's probably worse is, I was saving this for the end before we get to our special segment, is the pregnant lady, the friend of Susie's.
Yeah, Randi, I think her name
Randi is her name, absolutely. Yes. So first, he sees her at the gym, and that's one of the recipients of his, I think 3 days is enough for Happy New Year. And then also, I don't think you should work out that hard. And she's like, well, it's my fetus, my problem. And then he sees her later drinking coffee at Mocha Joe's. So, of course, when he's in a panic to get out of the hospital before Ted Danson, America's sweetheart who's not Tom Hanks, sees him.
Respect.
Yeah. He knocks over the pregnant lady. And he's like, if anything happens to this kid, it's your fault. He's like, oh, please. It's all the stuff you did. Happy New Year. And what a perfect Larry ending. So I wanted to get both of your thoughts on the entire escalation of the interaction with Randi, the pregnant lady. James, each step of the way, what are you thinking about as Larry judges this pregnant woman? His woman, we've established, is 8 months pregnant.
I have to say, the funniest part for me, it was very subtle, but it stands out when she's like, oh, my husband's African American.
Yeah.
He's like, do you feel you to tell me that? Does it make you feel some kind of way about it? She's like, well,
The way she mentioned it, I'm not going to say Larry's 100% right, but he said it, and you're like, yeah, what did that have to do with anything?
As someone who is African American,
yeah,
I agree with that statement.
Look, I'm the one on today's panel who's not. So I still feel like, yeah, why was that in there?
Yeah, it was a little strange for that. I thought it was interesting. I thought it was funny, too, because, we are, for now, we are all men on the panel. We will have Rachel next week.
Yes, correct.
So it was interesting to see and hear those kind of inner thoughts. Where I'm like, yo, should you be running on the treadmill?
Yeah.
Should you be drinking coffee?
Yeah.
I don't really know. It's not my business. racist, but I'm
know
curious.
He doesn't know, like, at Mocha Joe's, was she drinking an herbal tea? Like, he doesn't actually know what she, because he's Larry. He's just like, nah, look at that.
Yeah, look over there.
But what do you think about sort of the whole process, Flobo?
This is definitely Curb Your Enthusiasm. Something sort of kind of innocent, an awkward exchange, totally escalated to potentially shoving a pregnant woman while she's attached to an IV.
Why are we laughing about it?
I don't know.
Well, because it's pretend. It is pretend. I'm sure that woman's not even pregnant.
Of course not. It's so funny.
That's why we're laughing.
The fact that he didn't like the fact she exercised because he was jostling the fetus, and he literally jostled the fetus by doing a shoulder block was totally on brand. Steve Silver in the chat says the only scene that made him laugh personally was when Leon said, "My man, we tapping that ass." So shout out to Steve for watching the show today.
I'm glad that Steve is here, and I'm glad that Leon is with us as well.
Yes.
Well, before we run out of time, let's go for our special segment,
Having said that, I'm very happy to be here.
which is indeed our Curb Correction Corner. There have been a lot of moments as we've talked about the show here today where we agree with Larry, but each week we will each of us pick a moment where we feel like Larry was completely in the wrong. So James, I will let you go first. What was your moment?
My moment where Larry was completely in the wrong, I definitely say it was his interaction with the coffee. The nose, I'm going to use your glass as an example. I'm not going to do it for real.
What are you, a goose?
He tested. I'm like, yo, you have so many other phalanges you could use to test coffee. Why are you using your nose? Of all things. So that's where I was like, nah,
if
bro.
If the coffee is hot, and you do put your nose in it, you're going to burn it.
Yeah.
Like, really badly.
There's so many other ways to
if you
test
burnt
coffee.
your finger, okay, it'll be all right.
9 more of those,
Yeah.
And then lastly, to do it in someone else's coffee at that, or he does it.
He did it to Richard Lewis.
Richard Lewis, because I think he does it to his coffee in the beginning.
Yeah.
But then he does it to Richard's coffee. I'm like, no, not my coffee.
Right.
So yeah, that will be my curb correction.
And what's your curb correction, Flobo?
You know what? I gotta be honest with you. If a pregnant woman wants to exercise, she should do it. She should be able to have mind and body even with a child. So I was kind of
here. The one thing I'll say is that I guess she says that her doctor said it was okay.
Yeah.
But look, my wife has had 2 kids, and I remember her being that size. And I think it's just everything is like, let's walk slowly, let's sit softly. You don't want to do anything that makes anything happen before you're ready.
Yeah.
You don't need to have your water break on the treadmill or anything like that.
So she wasn't doing Krav Maga or anything like that?
No.
Okay.
No, she was not.
I gotta ask, man.
And for me, you know what? I had a different one in mind, but I have to go back to, you can say Happy New Year for a few weeks. Larry was so adamant about those 3 days. I think the rule should be 3 weeks, but we'll amend it to Flobo's benchmark of MLK Day. Because you know what? That's a Monday. It's usually the 3rd Monday in the month. That's enough.
Right.
So next week, we will not wish anybody a Happy New Year. Except
thumbs down.
Because Rachel's not here this week, I'm probably going to wish her Happy New Year next week.
Oh,
but
so we have
in real life, I won't do it. I am going to break the rule.
That's terrible.
Anyway, Flobo, I do know you have some news for us, so let's make sure we get to that.
Oh, yes. So, one of my favorite people on the planet, Jerry Seinfeld, also a noted Mets fan, sat down with one of the commentators, Keith Hernandez, and also Hall of Famer in his own right, talking about the Larry David in a return of Curb Your Enthusiasm, really talking about how neurotic Larry was, even in real life and outside and inside the scene. So, check it out on Instagram on SNYTV. That's a sports channel over there in New York that have the entire exchange available on Instagram. So, check that out when you can.
And, this is a little bit of a personal thing for Flobo and I. As Mets fans, Jerry Seinfeld, next manager, they need one.
I actually put my name in the hat on Twitter. So
where was the hat? I didn't realize that the hat was looking for more.
Yeah, man, I put my Mr. Met logo hat in the ring. I want to be the next manager.
I think the hat was in this episode, right?
Yeah. That's the wrong hat I want to throw into the man. Some Mets.
Well, in any case, obviously that would be a Cardinals hat. Anyway, thanks to everybody who is watching in the chat, everybody who is going to join us in the archive. I'm really looking forward to talking about this show every week with the panel. Our plan will be to be here every Monday at 2 Pacific, that's 5 Eastern, to talk Curb. Until then, James, where can people find you?
You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Terrell James Maple, TerrellJamesMaple.
And Flobo.
Wow. My name is Flobo, Boyce. That's me. At Twitter, at Flobo Boyce. On Instagram, at Flobito. And, of course, Flobito.com.
Flobito.com.
Yeah.
I like that.
New content every Monday.
And, of course, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at ChristianDMZ. And you can find Flobo and I this Thursday at 9 p.m. here on AfterBuzz TV for the Star Trek Picard after show. So,
Do it.
yeah, we'll all do it.
Live long and
So you can
left
find us
out.
there. Until then, Happy New Year!
Happy New Year!
Our founder,
Peace.
Kevin Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.